Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're plugging in and cranking it up on one of the coolest instruments ever made. We're going to pull back the curtain on analog synthesizers and figure out exactly how they take something as simple as electricity and turn it into those incredible sounds we all know and love.
You know, the key word on this slide is perfect. Think about it. A guitar string vibrates, a trumpet pushes air, but a synth, it doesn't start with anything physical. It starts with pure electricity, which lets it create these flawless, mathematically perfect waves that no acoustic instrument could ever make. And that, right there, is the secret to their unique, kind of otherworldly sound.
So that leads us to the big question, right? If all you've got is raw power coming out of the wall, how in the world do you shape that energy into a melody or a deep bass line or some kind of sweeping, epic soundscape? Well, that's exactly what we're about to break down, step by step. To figure that out, we've got to look at the blueprint first. See, a synthesizer isn't just one single thing. It's really a system, a collection of different modules where each one has a very specific job to do, and they all have to work together. So if you zoom way out, this is what it looks like. You've got your power supply, which provides the juice. You've got the amplifier at the very end, which makes it loud enough for us to hear. But the real magic, the heart of the whole thing, happens right here, in this blue box, the signal processing unit. That's where we're going to be spending all our time. Okay, let's zoom in on that signal processing part. This diagram shows the typical journey that a sound takes. It literally flows from one module to the next, getting changed and shaped at every stop. And in the synth world, this exact wiring, this specific route, that's what we call a patch. It's the recipe for the final sound. Now, before we follow that signal path, there's one really important thing you gotta know. There are two different kinds of signals flying around in there. First, you have the waveform signal. That's the actual sound, the audio itself. Think of it like water flowing through pipes. Then you have control signals. These are just instructions. They don't make any sound at all. They just tell the other modules what to do. They're like the hands that turn the faucets on and off. Okay, perfect. Now that we've got the lay of the land, let's build a sound completely from scratch. We're going to start at the very beginning of that signal path. So where does the sound actually come from? It all starts right here with the Voltage Controlled Oscillator, or VCO for short. This is the absolute source. You can basically think of it as the vocal cords of the synthesizer. It just takes a steady stream of electricity and starts vibrating, creating this raw, continuous, and really basic tone. And as you can see here, the VCO's whole job is to spit out a simple, repeating waveform. It can make a few different basic shapes, like a really buzzy sawtooth wave or a hollow-sounding square wave. This is our sonic clay, our raw material. But right now, it's just a constant droning noise. Not very musical, yet. So we've got our raw sound, but it's pretty harsh, pretty boring. To make it musical, we need to start sculpting. So let's move on to the next couple of modules in the chain. These are our sonic chisels. First up, the Voltage Controlled Filter, or VCF. Now, if the VCO creates the raw note, the VCF is what gives that note its character, its personality. It's basically the tone knob on an electric guitar. By cutting out certain frequencies, it can make a sound super bright and sharp or really dark and mellow. This is how we shape the sound's texture, or its timbre. And here's what that looks like in action. That raw, buzzing signal from the VCO comes in one side, and the VCF gets to work, carving away parts of the sound just like an EQ on a stereo. This is a huge step. It's where a nasty buzz can be transformed into a beautiful, soft pad. It's all about creating a signature sound. After our sound gets its character in the filter, it heads over to the Voltage Controlled Amplifier, the VCA. Now, its job seems simple enough. It's the volume knob. It controls how loud the sound is. But here's the catch. It's automated. It can't do anything on its own. It has to be told how to change the volume. This diagram shows it perfectly. Our audio signal, the sound we just shaped with the filter, comes in through the signal import. But by default, that VCA is just a closed gate. No sound can get through. It's just sitting there, waiting for an instruction, that special control signal, to show up at the control import. That signal is what tells the gate when to open, how much to open, and when to close. So what sends that signal? And this is where those control signals we talked about earlier make a huge comeback. We need a module whose only job is to send instructions. We need a puppeteer to pull the strings of the VCA and give our sound some life, some real movement. And here it is, the envelope generator. This is our puppeteer. Now remember, It doesn't touch the audio itself. All it does is create a special control signal called an envelope that draws the blueprint for how a note's volume should behave over time. This is what makes a sound sharp and percussive like a drum, or it makes it swell in gently like a violin.
So the envelope generator usually carves up a sound's life into 4 stages, which you might have heard of as ADSR. First is the attack, how fast the note gets to full volume. Then the decay, how it settles down a bit from that initial peak. Then sustain, the volume it holds as long as you're holding the key. And finally, the release, how long it takes to fade to total silence after you let go.
And this graph makes it all click, right? When you press a key, the envelope tells the VCA to follow this exact shape. Rise up during the attack, drop a little in the decay, hold steady for the sustain, and then, once you let go of the key, fade away during the release. So the big takeaway here is that by changing the shape of this envelope, you change the entire feel of the sound. So, we did it. We actually built a complete basic synthesizer sound. From the VCO making the raw tone, through the VCF shaping its character, to the VCA controlling its volume, all directed by the envelope generator. But honestly, this is where the real fun begins, because the path we just took, it's just one of countless possibilities. And that really is the heart and soul of analog synthesis. Because all these different modules can be connected or patched together in almost any order you can imagine, the whole thing becomes this wide open playground for sound design. You're not stuck on a fixed path. You're actually encouraged to experiment, to invent completely new sounds that have never existed before. And there are so many other toys in this playground. You can throw in a low-frequency oscillator, an LFO, to make the pitch wobble for a cool vibrato effect. You could mix in a noise source to create the sound of a snare drum or ocean waves. You could add portamento to make the notes slide smoothly into each other. Every single module you add just opens up a whole new universe of possibilities. Which brings us to one final thought. We've seen how a synth takes raw electricity, gives it a tone, shapes its color, and controls its life. But with a truly modular system, there's no right way to do any of it. The combinations are literally infinite. So the real question isn't just how does a synthesizer work, it's what sound would you create with it?